Good morning. Happy South by to you. Sean Singleton. I am a managing principal with Oglethorpe Capital out of Silicon Valley. And I'm also the U.S. venture partner for Beaton Zone Ventures, which is headquartered out of Brisbane, Australia. And my major area of focus is to get the Australians and the United States military to work in a symbiotic balance. AUKUS Pillars 1 and 2 are great first steps, but we want to go ahead and make sure that this actually moves forward. How I got into venture was actually through the Defense Innovation Unit. I ran the private equity venture capital arm of DIU from 2016 to 2018. I like to think that we had a lot of greatest hits that came out of that period right there. And based off of a lot of those lessons learned, we're going to have this panel conversation with these esteemed folks that are representing international engagements that are successful. And I want them to be able to sort of share and impart their wisdom with you as far as what they're doing in the market and how it's actually being received across various oceans. So with that being said, Brandon, if you wouldn't mind giving your full background and passing it over to Paul.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Brandon Cates. I'm the CEO of Ametrine. We make people disappear, which is a way to say that we do multispectral signature management, which is a complicated term that maybe we'll get into a little bit later. But bottom line is we make warfighters more survivable on their missions by allowing them to be undetected against enemy sensors. So we are based here in Round Rock, Texas, just about 20 minutes north of here. We also have a factory north of Tel Aviv in Israel. Been doing this since about 2018. My military experience was I was in the 75th Ranger Regiment, which is an Army Special Operations unit, and served in Afghanistan and another number of other theaters. And happy to be here.
Hi everyone, Paul Jenkinson. I'm from England, as you can tell, from Manchester. My background, sort of 35 years building tech companies, the last 5 years very specifically in defence and national security. We are an AI company specifically focused on decision intelligence, so how to make governments and enterprise make smarter decisions. I think we can all do a lot with that. Like I say, last 5 years very much into defence and national security, so a lot of work with the UK MOD. We're also now working, we have a contract with the US Navy and US Army. That's me.
Awesome. And so as you can see, they've cracked the code not only in their respective nation states, but actually have been able to cross into another Department of Defense. Now, many of you probably have gone to panels and discussions like this where we focus in on either technology that a company brings or we gripe about the Department of Defense and the acquisition system that exists, right? But as you can see from these fine examples here, there's ways to crack the code. What we want to talk about in this are offering case studies of success, case studies of failure, where the government got it right, where the government got it wrong, and to be able to walk out of this room and share some of those lessons learned. If you engage with folks on Capitol Hill, share it with them. If you have government customers that you're working with, being able to share that with them. And if you're looking to expand internationally, be able to go ahead and take some of those lessons learned and impart it on those respective governments. So with that being said, Brandon, you just pointed out that you all have a presence in Israel. Can you talk a little bit about the company a little bit more and how you've been able to actually crack the code considering that ownership structure?
Sure. Our company started in Israel in really the Second Lebanon War in 2006. Our company's founder was part of a special unit that went into Lebanon to do a mission, to do a raid. His mission and his team was compromised because Hezbollah had Russian-made thermal sensors, and he was shot and 2 of his men were killed. That's the inspiration that started the company and how he went down a material science path to try to invent material solutions that allowed us to own the night again. He eventually, he really started out kind of that two inventors in a garage kind of concept, which is pretty familiar in the U.S. Eventually formed a company. He was working with special units over there that were his friends. He was able to use that innovation cycle where he would give a prototype out to some of his friends. They would go out, take it on a mission, and come back 24 hours later with feedback. And so the early days of our company, which I wasn't associated with it back then, was just constant innovation. And we've maintained that throughout, but expanded our innovation footprint to include U.S. Special Operations folks as well. But in 2015, he had such great success with kind of the Tier 1, Tier 2 units in the Special Operations of the Israeli military that his friends were telling him, look, you need to take on investment to scale. The whole IDF needs this, and oh, by the way, our allies need this. So he went out and found a venture capital fund who was interested in focusing on defense. There might be some of those folks here, but it was an Israeli venture capital fund. And they said, look, if we invest in this, we're taking you to America. We're going to go put an American footprint on here. We're going to put American veterans in charge of the company, and we're going to build. For us, because we're focused a lot on textiles for our soldier systems related things, there's a thing that governs us called the Berry Amendment, and it's kind of like the Made for America Act, but it's focused on the textile industry. And so everything from the zippers and buttons and thread that goes into the textile that soldiers wear has to be manufactured in America, as well as any processes or value adds have to be done in America. So we had to create an entirely American supply chain, which for us was very difficult. The textile industry in the United States has been decimated. Most of it's in Mexico or Bangladesh or China or Vietnam. And so we had to start from scratch, really working with American cut and sew folks, American textile partners, and taking their level of competency, I guess, up a whole nother level, because they were focused on t-shirts and things like yoga pants for Lululemon and things like that. And so in order to transition to technology, we really had to be like a category creator in the United States within our industry partners. It was quite challenging.
Based off of all of that activity, though, you've been able to open up the doors in a lot of places across the Department of Defense. Can you talk a little bit about how that footprint currently is instantiated and where you see it going over the next, say, 24, 36 months?
Yeah, from like a business development perspective?
From a business development standpoint, how are you leveraging the footprint you have today to springboard into other things?
That's great. So we were, from a vision perspective, we started out in Israeli Special Operations. American Special Operations has a lot of respect for Israeli Special Operations. There's a mutual respect and sharing of best practices that goes back decades. And so it was really easy for our American Special Operations to adopt when they heard the stories of how Shaldog or Sayat Makal or any one of the units over in Israel that are kind of historic are using this technology. It was easy for our guys to adopt that as well. And for those of you who don't work with the Defense Department much, or specifically Special Operations Command, Special Operations Command has a history of buying down risk and taking bets on companies who maybe aren't fully formed, right? Maybe you're at the time when we first got our contract with Special Operations Command, we had about 10 employees in the United States. And we were not a fully functioning machine that we are today. The very first 30 systems of uniforms that we delivered, we had to create 90 in order to get 30 that worked. It was that kind of challenges in our supply chain and our production process. But that was 2019, and that allowed us to partner with folks who would give us immediate feedback, allow us to improve our product, improve our processes, improve our supply chain, improve our team, and now transitioning things. And you can look at case studies across the past 30 years. The M4 rifle was initially a special operations rifle, and it eventually transitioned to the rest of the Army and the Marine Corps. I think the Marine Corps has it now. Marine Corps is usually the last to get everything good. But helmets. I jumped into, or I was in Afghanistan with an improved helmet that was half the weight of the one I had before I went to Afghanistan, and eventually everybody else got that as well. So the path is there, and working with SOCOM teaches you a lot, and it also allows for you to create past performance, and it's a great technique.
Yeah, we'll get more into the SOCOM component into the conversation a little bit later, because it can be a huge catalyst for other contract opportunities across the DoD.